Inflation and the fragile state of Nigeria's economy. Economic experts are saying a continuous rise in inflation rate means a devaluation of the citizenry's purchasing power as the value of assets, including monies in the banks, equally weakens. That's true. Well, to give an in-depth analysis into this and, of course, other economic issues, I have joining me via Skype is a partner with Deloitte Nigeria, Mr. Taiwo Okwande. Thank you very much for your time, Mr. Okwande. I appreciate this.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon.
Yes. First, it's no more news. 18.17% from 17.33%. This is 0.82% points higher than what we had in February. And it's extremely high looking at it from 2017 till date. First, how did this figure come to you when you saw it? Were you expecting it? Were you expecting more? What were you thinking about?
To be honest, it wasn't all that surprising. If you look at everything that has been happening in the economy, what has been happening within the global economy, and what is happening in the local economy, especially when you are looking at the impact of the prices of food, basic food items, on the general inflation. In the last, I think the last few months, if you look at February as well, the headline inflation increase has generally been driven by food inflation. The same thing happened in February. When I was on your program in February, I mentioned it, that, headline food inflation, because of the disruption in the global supply chain, which is not peculiar to Nigeria. I know when people look at it, they will think maybe Nigeria is the only country that is impacted by this disruption to the supply chain. It affects the global supply chain due to the impact of COVID-19. And as you are aware, a lot of economies in the world are being shut down presently, due to the what you can call the third wave of COVID-19 virus. So, if you look at this impact on the Nigerian economy, you will not be surprised at all that the inflation rate increased further in March 2021. If you also look at the security situation in the northern region of the country and in the last few months, it is not at all surprising that prices of goods have continued to increase, and the impact on subsistence farming in the north has affected the ability of farmers to produce and to ship goods to the market that will be purchased at reasonable, affordable prices. So, to be honest, I'm not really surprised that the inflation rate in March increased to 18.17%.
Staying with food, which everybody likes to talk about, food is important. We must eat, no matter how bad it is. Even if we don't wear clothes, people will always want to eat. We see 22.95%. You've talked about insecurity, which everyone has also talked about. Some say the border closure for some time also had an effect on it. Then restriction of forex for some food items, even the latest one now with, I think, and sugar that just happened yesterday. Now, do you see all of this also having an effect on these figures? Because some say we are yet to be self-sufficient in production of some of these items that we are banning.
I agree with you. You see, the rise in inflation or inflation on its own is the causes of inflation are all encompassing. There are so many things that result to high inflation. If you look at the economy on its own, if an economy is not self-sustaining and you want that economy to continue to buy internally or inwardly, there is a tendency that prices of items will increase, because where there is scarcity, there is a tendency that there will be high inflation, which is why I understand the concern of a lot of people that the border closure and the recent pronouncement by the CBN that some items will be included on the restrictive list for forex purpose will continue to affect or increase the rate of inflation in the country. It's a valid point because if we are not self-sustaining and we want to buy internally, if the items that you want to buy internally are not readily available, there is a possibility that that will lead to increase in prices and increase in inflation. So it's a valid point. The other issue that you need to also look at is how productive are we within the country? Are we really that productive to the extent that we can say that we are self-sustaining? I don't think so. There's still a long way to go because certain infrastructure that are required for the country to allow businesses to flourish without any impairment has not been introduced to the economy. So for businesses to operate and for businesses to be able to be self-sustaining and produce at a rate that will be able to sustain the economy, we need to be able to introduce or put up certain infrastructure that will be able to help local businesses to produce and be self-sustaining for the country to engage in policies that will further increase the rate of inflation.
This is really very touching. Let's before we move to issues around revenue and how we can shore it up and all of that, bread and cereals, potatoes, yam, other tubers, vegetables, oil, and all of this are on the high side. Also, passenger transport, air transport, and all of that. Now, I'm looking at a regular Nigerian that has not had any increment of any form in his maybe the stay home and all of that. What kind of life are we going to live with this figure? I want us to take it down so that people really understand what this figure means and how it affects what you have in your pocket. Because at the moment, if you have 1,000 naira, it's really not worth 1,000 naira anymore.
Absolutely. So generally, inflation rate, increases the mystery index, and what I refer to as mystery index is the ability of citizens of a country to be able to live, comfortably. That is the simple term. So if your take home, your salary, your earnings will not be able to help in buying the items that will be required to feed you and your family, then you are in a mystery category. So which means that a lot of people within the country have experienced an increase in the mystery index because their standard of living has been impacted significantly. So I agree. There are so many policies that government will still have to conjure up to be able to help the country to turn around this negative trend in the movement of inflation. Sometimes it is necessary, that government help the local economy to be able to be self-sustaining. I mentioned it before. It's not sometime or all the time bad for inflation to happen. But when inflation happens, there must be certain things that will happen within the economy that will be able to counteract the effect of such inflation. But that is not the case in Nigeria. If you look at the moment, the increase in the rate of inflation at the moment has eroded the value of our naira. So the purchasing power of naira has reduced significantly. So what people were able to buy with 1 naira in February, for instance, you cannot use 1 naira to buy the same thing in March. So it's a big issue. Well, unless the government, come up with certain policies and strategies that will be able to turn around the continual growth in the inflation rate of the economy, then we are going to be in a bad place.
Now, talking about government's efforts, we've seen what's been playing out and has been topical in the news. Mr. Obaseki, the governor of Edo State, coming to say, yes, 60 billion naira was printed. CBN is saying, no, this never happened. At the time, we borrowed governor's money in 2016. They didn't refund. Minister of Finance is coming to say, no, nothing like that happened. No, we are still okay. We didn't print any money to share. What do you make of all of this claims and counter arguments? So I can see you smiling already.
Like you said, it's we're not really clear on how this happened or what is is all about. So I want to limit my comments on it. We are very clear on what exactly has happened, whether the issue of printing of money is confirmed or not. But one thing I'm going to mention is that it is not at all bad for countries to print money.
Indeed.
Or for countries to engage in certain fiscal initiatives that will help in boosting the economy or stimulating the economy. If you notice, the US, the UK, and the EU, they've engaged in certain activities that help in rejuvenating or boosting the economy in the last few months. I'm sure a lot of people heard about the stimulus package that was introduced by the U.S. Senate, that was approved by the U.S. President in February.
Yes.
So that is a good initiative. That way, because the money was not readily available in the U.S., the U.S. government had to print money for it to be able to deliver stimulus checks and to government, to businesses and citizens. So the only issue is when that stimulus package is not designed in such a way to stimulate certain parts of the economy that will achieve optimal results for the economy. So if you want to, print money, you must be able to use that money in a way that certain critical sectors of the economy will be stimulated. So if that is not the case, then you are not achieving anything but further increase the mystery index of the country. Now, the other issue with the printing of money is that all these countries that are engaged in this stimulus initiative, they have very low inflation compared to Nigeria. Nigeria has very high inflation, and printing money within the economy will further, heighten or worsen the standard of living of people. Because if this money is not carefully used or not strategically used in certain sectors of the economy to stimulate the economy further, then the economy will continue to get worse, and our economic growth will continue to be precarious.
Yes, nice submission there. Thank you very much for that response. Before we wrap up, let's touch on our foreign exchange market, that very big one. Everybody likes to talk about that because one way or the other, the effect of that is also telling on our currency, even on our debt and all that we have to do because of we are a less exporting country. We do more of imports. What do you make of that market and all of the efforts by the CBN to stabilize it, at least to make that stability of the Naira? And what's your projection for inflation? Some say, we might get to the 20th floor anytime soon. We're at the 18th floor at the moment, but they say we might be getting to the 20th floor. I don't know if you agree with that.
I agree. The situation is already bad, but I don't think there is anything that we can do in the short term to turn around the trend. I think we need a long-term policy that will be able to help to turn around the negative trend of inflation. I agree, we have to start embarking on certain initiatives that will help the country altogether. It will have to get worse before it will start getting better, unfortunately. Because no matter what you do in the short term, certain reliefs will come to the economy, but I don't think it's something that will be able to sustain us in the long term until the government is more strategic in the way policies are introduced or policies are designed to stimulate some critical sector of the economy. We cannot continue to import, some basic items forever. That has always been my position. You cannot continue to import basic items forever if you can produce those items internally. But until you have that ability to produce, that capacity to produce, then you don't have a choice but to import, or else the rate of inflation or the prices of items will continue to go up and the price of inflation will continue to worsen. So that's basically what I think about it. For the government to be able to, for CBN in particular, CBN will always, come up with policy initiatives that will help it in sustaining or for it to be able to maintain the value of the naira. As far as CBN is concerned, that is the primary goal, the primary purpose, to make sure that naira is not worsened compared to other currencies. But that is not something that we've been able to achieve at the moment. CBN will always want to introduce policies that will help it in achieving its purpose, but we cannot introduce policies that will help one agency or help one aspect of the economy at the same time worsening other aspects of the economy. That is my view.
All right, I think it's a good way to live it. Mr. Taiwo Okwande, I really appreciate your time. Partner, Deloitte Nigeria, thank you so much for spending your afternoon with us. Enjoy your weekend.
Always happy to be here. Thank you very much.
All right there, Taiwo Okwande there, giving us his views on the inflation figures as released by the National Bureau of Statistics.